Kalimeragi, kalisperagi, kalinichta, no matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be. Thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. It's been a long time coming. Finally, we are here. Some obstacles got in the way, but I have one of my favorite humans on the planet to talk about the Women's World Cup. Let's rock and roll. Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad. Hello, squaddies. No matter where in this wacky world you are, thanks for joining us for another show. Welcome back, my podcast brother from another mother, one of my favorite humans on the planet, the musician extraordinaire, the life coach extraordinaire, and the women's football expert that I love to just digest, Mr. Demian Arriaga.
Kalimera, kalispera. How's everybody doing? Hi, Sophie, my dear friend. I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to report to all of you squaddies at ease that I got to spend some time in person with the GOAT herself, with none other than our Sophie Nicolaou.
Listen, you've chopped all of your hair off.
I
Squaddies
did.
have the squaddies. I'm not sure if they've seen you since you've chopped it off. What inspired, before we talk about football, by the way, Demian, before you answer that, I'm sweating like swine here. Can you see it?
I cannot see it. I can't see it.
It's happening.
No.
It's really happening.
I can smell it, but I can't see it.
There are things going on in my life that people don't know about, but let's just say I'm sweating like swine, and people may know why. Maybe some of the women in the house may know why, but Demian?
Also, the Arsenal season hasn't even started, and this poor woman is already like losing it.
I know. I'm just going to drink from my Vinny mug while you tell everyone why you cut your hair.
I am as much as I'm a creature of habit, I also I love routine, and I love I need that for my artistic brain to work. I need some things to be sort of steady. And I like changing my look very often. I get bored with myself, and, it was just I felt it was too unruly.
Unruly.
Life was sort of being
You're a
scheduled
musician.
around when
You
to wash
should
my
be
hair
unruly.
and do the thing. Will I have time to dry it and blah, blah, blah.
Do we have a delay?
I think that's where I let other things be. Yeah, there's a little bit delay. You are a little bit delayed.
Why? I just installed this super duper.
Okay, there you are. I think you're back.
Why do I have a delay? I have a super duper internet that I just installed with fiber and everything. Like, what's happening to me and my internet connection? Do you not hear me? You're frozen, Demian. I'm not frozen. Demian's frozen. Which one of us is frozen?
Okay. I don't know. I think I'm back. You see me, right? I'm back?
Yeah. You're the one that froze, not me.
Okay.
I think you froze.
Yeah. This is, these are the gremlins of the internet saying, guys, stop talking about some random dude's hair. Can we just get it onto the real topic of football?
Tammy, I am back home. Yes. I'm mixing it up a little bit with the old backgrounds this season. I'm thinking about doing several things. The living room, the garage, the backyard. Thought I'd mix it up a little bit. And also,
I like it.
I'm sweating like swine today. So I have the front door open so I could just breathe. Because I have an old house with no air conditioning. And I kind of like that. Saves on my electricity bills as well, by the way.
Sure.
Let's say good evening to some folks in the house. Little Sophie's here. Welcome to the show. Kettles on, says Cliff. Who's got the hobnobs? I'd like some chocolate digestives, actually, Cliff. So make that happen. Demsek is here. Amira says, we're just about to say that everything was fine for me and then he froze. We don't want Demian freezing because he is the one.
Sorry.
He does look good. And by the way, here he is. I think your biggest squaddy fan, other than maybe Chief Like Officer Tammy, Carol, and Demsek. I think Emmanuel from Down Under, the Brizzy babe, who writes all the time and insists, when's Demian coming on? When are you
that's
guys
so
doing?
kind. That's so
He
nice.
has been to every World Cup game he can in his city. He was sitting behind the goal for the Lionesses penalty shootout against Nigeria.
Is he okay? Did that ball just go through the net and hit him in the face? Yeah, did he catch it?
Chloe Kelly. By the way, we're going to get to that. The saltiness,
Yes.
the saltiness of Chloe Kelly's, you know, the news that her penalty kick was faster than any Premier League shot of the 2022-23 season.
Unbelievable.
But the saltiness people have just because people have been promoting that. What is that about?
I just posted. I'm glad I don't have that big of a following because I just posted it on my Instagram, and not a lot of people care. They're all music fans. But I can't even imagine. It just, if there's one thing that this World Cup has shown us is how many stupid people there are in this world that are so mean, and let's just let her have this. Like, why does it bother you so much? We're celebrating a woman. We're bigging her up. We're championing her. And somebody has to, like, condition that. Like, who cares? Like, mind you, this is somebody that's sitting in their home drinking Yoo-hoo, in their couch, and they haven't kicked the ball since 2002 or something. So,
Demian, can I just say the confidence, the way she takes her pens, and I mean, what a bullet. I was sitting in a hotel room in the middle of the mountains in Park City, and I literally was on the edge of my bed.
Yeah.
And half of me, it was one of those games where you're like, man, if only Nigeria were playing another team, right? Because, of course, I'm rooting for England. But we're going to get to all of that. But my goodness, legend, absolute legend. There was a little Jorginho in there, but without the kind of skippity skip part.
The fully, it was like a crane, some sort of like Karate Kid crane situation. But yeah, it was unbelievable, and I'm happy for her. And we talked about Chloe Kelly and how I thought she should just stick around the team.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of stuff where I think she would do. So I'm very excited for her.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get stuck into it. The crew's here. By the way, thanks for everyone who's joining in. Here's my goal for the Highbury Squad this season. You guys can see that we still have a lot of work to do. At the Highbury Squad, we get a lot of listeners. We get a lot of views, an average of 10,000 per show. When it comes to our women's shows, we really need to up our game. And I'm asking for your support because Demian and I will be here throughout the season covering our Arsenal women and the WSL. And we will be covering the Women's Champions League together. And we will be coming at you between now and the World Cup final with a number of different shows. And I'm asking you to please give women's football a chance. And also, I understand that many of you out there just want to follow the men's team, but it's amazing. Monday night, we had 500-600 people in live chat. And this is a Women's World Cup show on a channel that attracts a fair few listeners. And we don't even have 50 people in the live chat. I will continue to do these shows. I will continue to bring women's football content to the table. And I hope that this season we can up our game as a group and as fans. I'm not asking you to follow women's football if you don't want to, but if you can support it in some way, that would be great. So to those of you who've shown up tonight, thank you from the bottom of our heart. And I hope that this show goes out and some of our subscribers who aren't tuned in tonight do listen as well. The Women's World Cup is amazing. And I've been covering it since I moved here to the United States back in 2001. My God, I had to do my maths there, Demian. And I covered the women's team, the US women's national team from probably 2010. And Demian, when I was covering the women's camps for Olympics and World Cup, there was probably me and 10 other people standing on the sideline at LA Galaxy's home where the training camps are on soggy nights when, the machine hadn't really kicked in. And for me to kind of see what's happening in Australia and New Zealand, to see the love for the game, to see these new nations rising who wouldn't be in the position they are if it wasn't for the US women's national team trailblazers, the 99ers, the Abby Wambach teams, the Carly Lloyd teams, and then the Alex Morgan teams. And of course, we'll get to Megan Rapinoe in just a little bit. They are the trailblazers. The Lionesses would never have won the Euros if it wasn't for the US women's national team. We wouldn't be seeing this now if it wasn't for trailblazers like Japan, Germany, who kind of have been there or thereabouts over the years. So I would love to keep doing what we're doing, Demian, no matter how many people tune in and listen, because to you and I, we're passionate about this, but I know how important it is to you. Talk me through a little bit about this World Cup so far, what it means to you, and how much you think it's improved since we started talking about football together a good few years ago.
Wow. I mean, so many things. Thank you for bringing up all the points that you brought up. To me, it's a pleasure to be here, and I don't consider myself an expert. I am somebody that just loves football and loves women's football and has grown to love it so very much. And I'm enamored by the idea of supporting women, supporting the LGBTQ community, and anything and everything that I can do. It's valuable for me. And it's tough to grow a channel. It's tough to get the conversation around women's football starting. It started in certain pockets, like clearly not in Australia when 75,000 people are going to the stadium, right? Or the sold out Emirates and so on and so forth. But it's still not the common thing in our world of podcasting, YouTubing, and so on and so forth. So, and even without getting into too many details, there's people that have very large blogs that cover the women's game and are now informally or formally, whatever, associated with their clubs that they're supposed to cover, and they're going to matches in their executive boxes with the owners of the team. So there's a lack of potential objectivity and things like that are great problems, because it means that, yes, the sport is growing, maybe not in our avenues necessarily. But this World Cup has been truly amazing for the sport, I think, and also for me personally, because this is the 2019 World Cup was what made me fall in love with women's football. And I promised myself that in those 4 years in between, I would try to learn as much as possible. And now I feel that virtually every match I watch, I know several players in either team. I know a little bit about the history. I've read about, this or that. So it's been really, really cool to see. And we're so spoiled, going back to your point about how women's football is amazing. Arsenal women are amazing. Our club is historically amazing. And we have, aside from Barcelona and Chelsea, we have I believe the most players in the World Cup. And we have players that have captained their teams. Like the first match, Australia with Steph Catley and Katie McCabe with Ireland, that is absurd. And we have, Caitlin Ford, Lydia Williams, former player, Louise Quinn, a former player, and who knows how many from the academy. I think Russia Littlejohn also played for the Arsenal Academy, if I'm not mistaken. So, or at some point.
And think of the ones we have missing too, Demian.
Yes, exactly. So it's unbelievable. Sweden has, 3 current Arsenal players. Australia has 2. It's just lovely. It has been absolutely magnificent to watch and to see. And I just love it. The quality is amazing. And of course, the Dutch that I love have been a joy to watch for the most part for me. And,
your girl screwed up. Your girl screwed up.
She should have gotten that yellow card against Vietnam, but I'm sure we'll talk about that. But, this is, and I wrote about this yesterday on my blog, that teams have to step up. The whole thing about, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. We're seeing this in this World Cup, but also you have to adapt, and you have to play with different players, and people have to come in and show that they can do it. And like I said, like England, I think they play better without Kira Walsh, and people think I'm nuts, and understandably so. And I think I'm a psychopath for saying that.
I haven't read
But
your column yet. Have you
yeah,
gotten a lot of shit about that
yeah,
already?
I haven't. No, because 4 people read it, and 2 of them are my mom and my dad, and probably my wife, and then my sister reads it.
And Vinny and
So
Vespa. Add Vinny
yeah,
and
Vinny and
Vespa.
Vespa read it. They click on it. But I think that's what has to happen. Teams have to step up. Depth of squads are really, really important. And, you know, we spoke with Albert, who, by the way, is here. We'll send our love to him.
Yes,
And
Albert will
Holly
be on
are
our next show.
amazing.
Albert and Holly will be on our next show. They don't know it
They're
yet, but they will be.
okay. They're just outstanding people, and I think we all had the same sort of ideas, and morally we see the sport in the same way. And you know, it's been a beautiful sort of coming together of people. The world is seeing some things that quite frankly has always been there, right? The beauty of women's football has always been there. The quality has gotten better, but the beauty is still there. The message has always been there. The trailblazing has always been there. So it's just like becoming more popular. So I'm happy for that. And I don't think the what is it? The what's the metaphor? The toothpaste is out of the, you know, cat's out of the bag, toothpaste out of the whatever. There's no putting that back together. Like that's it. The growth is there. And more than the U.S. women's team necessarily, I think it was the Lionesses, as it sort of correlates to the WSL, just because geographically it's more accessible than the NWSL in for the U.S. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm excited, and we're just halfway through the tournament.
Yeah, no, it's really amazing. And by the way, also from down under, Archangel, and I love how friendships are born too. So Emmanuel and Archangel from Australia didn't know each other before Highbury Squad, and now in the YouTube channel they comment and they go back and forth with each other, and I absolutely love it. And Archangel is saying that the Prime Minister of Australia has said that they will get a public holiday if the Matildas win it all. I tell you something, there's a bit of me that is kind of rooting for
my God.
You know why? I mean, I'm Greek. Half of Greek people live in Australia. Let's face it. Okay. And my family are going to the games. They're sending me messages. My little niece out there, who is a budding podcaster and she's a huge Manchester City fan. I've tried to talk to her about that, but there's nothing I can do about it. But she is so like, for her to see Australia in the quarterfinals, you know, doing what they're doing, your home nation, the same way the Lionesses galvanized, you know, a nation for the Euros, the same way we've seen Japan do the same thing, Germany, the US. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. And I think sometimes people kind of get this wrong, and they're like, oh, how much attention do you guys want? Oh, it's all about women. It's what we're just getting started. Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with Barbie, the movie, right? Everyone coming at the movie like it's it's against men. I'm like, did you watch Basic Instinct? Did you watch films in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s and 2000s? Have you seen how women have been subjected over the years? And it's like, there's just the spotlight on the game right now, and people can't accept it or take it. And yet I have nieces and even nephews who are inspired by it because they believe that they can do something. They believe they can achieve something no matter what the odds are. And that, I think, is one of the most beautiful things. So I want to come on to Nigeria, South Africa, Morocco, even Vietnam. I mean, it's just been such a beautiful thing to see. We've seen legends fall. Germany, Brazil, the US team. But then to see Morocco and Nigeria and Jamaica and all these teams, Demian, elevate themselves no matter what's going on in the background, because not everyone rides the luxury train like the Lionesses do and like the US women's national team do and like Germany do and Spain. And I mean, Spain have their own issues. Park that. We'll get to that for a minute. But we're talking about nations that have grafted. These women have just fought for everything.
Colombia.
And to see Colombia's a wonder. Yeah. We're going to get to that because that game against England, I think England need to buck up their ideas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, talk to me a little bit about the surprises and the beauty of those stories that every World Cup brings, but this one in particular has been exceptionally special.
I think anybody and everybody that watches and really truly loves women's football wants every single woman to succeed, right? And we talked about it with Albert the other day and Holly. Like, I don't want to see any player lose except only Chelsea players or something like that, right? I, I say that with I say it in jest, but like the quality has been outstanding from every player and or from most players, and you want them to succeed because you can, even with the slightest amount of empathy, you have to understand what these women have gone through and how hard of a battle it is nonstop without a lot of support. Not even their fellow professional footballers from the men's side. Very few of them mention something. Very few of them tweet. Very few of them post a story about them.
Have you seen
Um,
any Arsenal players currently post anything about the Women's World Cup or in support of our Arsenal women's team?
I'll say no only because I stopped following most of them a few years ago when they weren't posting about Arsenal women getting to an FA Cup final, except like Rob
Because
Holding, who
Demian, there are a lot of men out there that support the women. It's
they
beautiful. Ian
do.
Wright is like the best.
Right, but imagine, I've said this before, imagine if not only Ian Wright, but you had, call it 5 other people that was, that were Ian Wright. Imagine how much bigger that would be,
Hmm.
Um, saying hi to Jamie, the best, my dear friend.
And
Um,
also, you have a new subscriber, QA Guna, right here. I subscribe to Demian's channel.
Thank you.
Everyone subscribe. Please do. And we'll give all those details as well
Thank you. Yeah, I'll
at
talk
the end.
about
But
that. I'll talk about that
carry
because it
on,
has
mate.
to do with something you mentioned. No, no,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
mentioned something. I'm saying when we get to that, I'll mention something you said at the beginning because I stopped making YouTube videos, and we'll talk about that. Um, but so I think it's not necessarily that the metaphor of countries catching up. I just see it as this flurry, this freaking rainbow that just grows in every team. It's just this parallel journey. It's not like there's somebody here and we have to meet the standard. It's like we somewhat got close, and maybe there's teams that are higher, but we're all growing, at the same time. The gap has kind of closed, but it's not like a team is stuck. There's cultural differences. There's distinct styles that people know now and they can recognize. And it's lovely. That Nigeria play a certain way. That Jamaica are going to play a certain way. It's like it's just amazing to see. Every team has something. It's almost like the NFL when you could have the
Mm.
worst team in the world, like the Cleveland Browns or something like that, but they might have the best, left tackle in the sport, or you might have the best wide receiver, and they stand some sort of a chance to win a game when you have players like that. So it's just beautiful to watch. I'm really, really happy with the so-called newer nations
Yeah.
to football
It
or
makes
to
it makes a difference.
not to
And
football, but
Archangel,
to the spotlight.
totally. I love the women's game because it's still pure and old school. And a few of you are mentioning this in chat. Someone else just mentioned, if I can find it here, how it made them. Oh, here it is, Jamie. I feel like women's football gave back to the people. The stories of all these individual women are the reality of life. Men's football's lost that. And I think maybe, Jamie, that's the case because of what we're seeing happening in the transfer market, all of this money, Saudi Arabia, all of that type of stuff. And then GD shared this in terms of what's happening in his country. That let me just find it here because I want to put it back up, and you may have seen it. Our country didn't fund the women; they had
Yeah.
a GoFundMe. And Rebecca Lowe's been talking about this as well on her podcast with Brendan from Ted Lasso. You should catch that. It's a great podcast that they're recording during this World Cup. It's unacceptable. I mean, it's just completely unacceptable. And you're right, Tammy. It's so sad. But the girls just have gone there and battled and just absolutely smashed it, despite all of the challenges. And when people say, oh, you've got enough attention, oh, what more do you want? Look at these stories. They're not traveling first class at all. They don't have the abundance of money behind them. And some of these women in these teams play at the top level in Europe, you know? So, yeah, I mean, all of this stuff, Haiti, Morocco, Colombia, Jamaica, surprised Gigi. I know I've given his real name away, but the Colombia-Germany game, it was. But what the Australia game? Nigeria, right? What, no, was it Nigeria? What am I going? I've got there's too many games. It was, the host nation losing to an up-and-coming nation. I mean, these things, Demian, it's just been a beautiful thing to watch, and to see these stars rising as legends have fallen, and we're going to swing back into that now, has been the juxtaposition of the World Cup. But the World Cup, you see it, right? Host, the nations that sometimes people think are going to excel and do well don't. But then every World Cup, there's a new story and there's a new beginning. But with that said, I do want to swing back a little bit. By the way, I just wanted to say too, the example of maybe, I don't want to say anything really negative here, but Lauren James's behavior was so spoiled and so bratty. And she's been having the World Cup of a lifetime. Ian Wright, went to bat for her, saying that she should start for England. But her behavior, that petulance, the David Beckham-esque petulance, like, frustration, fine. What a disgusting thing to do. I'm sorry, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You stamped on a peer. I found that to be so distasteful. And if she doesn't play another game in the World Cup again, like Beckham, fine by me. What was your take on her challenge, by the way?
I'm going to focus on the challenge itself and not the fact that I don't really particularly rate her or like her as a player. In interviews, her body language, I don't love her. I respect her as a footballer. I think she's outstanding. She has quality. And to think that she's going to, and I believe so, that she's going to come back stronger and better and smarter, it's a scary thing because she's probably going to kick some Arsenal ass at some point. But if I focus on the incident itself, I think it was terrible. I think it was awful. And I think she should have a 3-match ban. And effectively not play the rest of the tournament. It was violent conduct. It could have been really, really, really bad for the player. And thankfully it wasn't. But her lack of remorse in person, or what it seemed, she just seems like somebody that's constantly checked out. I think she's kind of like absent whenever you see her, whenever, that's just kind of some personal thoughts.
Demian, I think she bought into her own hype and thought she was bigger than the moment and that she would get away with it. And I find that really,
I don't know, but
distasteful.
I don't disagree with that point. It's not like I agree or disagree. I'm not against that point of view either. Like, I think you have a fair assessment. I just think that there is this me against the world, chip on my shoulder type of a thing, vibe that I've gotten from her. And it could be warranted because of race issues, her upbringing. Arsenal mistreated her according to her father when they were younger. But her brother is kind of like the same sort of, I get the same vibe from her brother. So, and obviously this has nothing to do with race.
No, it has everything to do with Chelsea.
Exactly. Everything to do with Chelsea. The blue in their veins is what I dislike. So my point is she should be banned. If she doesn't play a single match again in the World Cup, completely fine by me. I would think that a 3-match ban is deserved, and somebody tells me it's a 5-match ban, and I would agree with it. And I don't care if that was Beth Mead that did it. I don't care if it was Daniela van de Donk that did it. I don't care if it was Steph Catley that did it. I don't give a shite. Yeah. You do that, you get a red card, and you get a suspension. And I hope that it's If we're going to keep the game pure and the soul of the game and how everybody's saying, we need to not to what is it? Excuse my pun, but like, or pun intended, we need to stamp this out. And this needs to be like, you need to stop it. And okay, you're going to do this not in our game, not in this
Yeah.
World Cup. Do not taint it. Do not ruin it. This is not going to be part of our game. The normalization or the growth of the game doesn't have to mean that it's closer to the as close to the men's game as possible, right? Just because you want to grow and be parallel to the men's game in some areas doesn't mean that the corruption has to be there. Doesn't mean that the diving has to be there. Doesn't mean that the time wasting has to be there. Doesn't mean that the violent conduct has to be there. So
yeah, it's about the worst. It's the worst challenge so far in the World Cup, which I think has been generally played in a good spirit. But I do love the competitiveness and the edge,
sure,
especially of some of the physical nations. And sometimes we in men's ball we commend that. Oh, they were physical, they were strong, they gave the team a very difficult time with their physicality and stuff like that. And I think we've seen a lot more strength, speed, and I find that a really kind of exciting part of the women's game. But yeah, that challenge, I hear you are as well. Like, it's a 3 match is excessive, then don't do it. Don't do it. There has to be jeopardy in a tournament. You can't not have jeopardy. Otherwise, everyone would sail through.
Right. The stakes have to be high in your behavior as well. And with all respect to R, it's excessive to you. It's not excessive to me. It's an opinion. You're not right. You're not wrong. I'm not right. I'm not wrong. It's just, this is what it is. And
here's the thing real quick, right? David Beckham went through a similar thing. It worked out for him in his career. It's going to work out just fine for Lauren James. She's going to learn from this big time. And if she doesn't, that's on her, right? That's on her.
Sure. What I'll say to that, though, is there's a great podcast out with Susie Rack and Faye Carruthers. And we
love Susie, friend of the show.
She's the best, yes. And they were talking about how people hope that it's a David Beckham moment in a way, and I'm paraphrasing, but that they hope that she doesn't get the David Beckham treatment because they just forgot how much abuse David Beckham had to endure.
Oh, that's unacceptable.
It's horrendous. And as much as it's unacceptable for Lauren James to have done what she did, and she could have broken the player's back and stamped on it 3 times, that doesn't make it okay to be racist against her. It doesn't make it okay for the misogynistic, disgusting stuff that I've read on Twitter. So hopefully she learns, she doesn't do it again, yada, yada, yada. And I believe that she's going to do that because she's an elite player and an elite person, and hoping for the best.
Exactly. And I'm rooting for her big time. And I do believe that she will learn from this. Okay, let's get into our legends who have fallen. Yeah, sure. It's a pun on the Brad Pitt movie, Legends of the Fall. Legends have fallen, and man, they've fallen big time. There's no Pop. There's no Marta. There's no Rapinoe. There's no Morgan. I mean, this is huge. But I want to start with, for me, the legends of all legends. The woman that really, I don't know, Demian. I love this shot, by the way. This was done by FIFA. And I know some of you, we need men to help the women's game grow. Men's support is massive. I love this image that they put together of all the great Brazilian number 10s kind of, applauding Marta as she walks off into the sunset. I love this picture too. All of the different Martas from over the years. There's no doubt this woman changed football. And her competitiveness, her tenacity, her total commitment to the game. And then her interviews after, Demian, as well. The way she spoke. And I believe this is why she's endeared herself more so in her failure at the World Cup. And we say failure, and I say that because for Brazil, this is a failure. For the US women's national team, it's a failure. And the juxtaposition maybe to Rapinoe. in terms of how Marta has endeared herself to the game. Let's start with Marta here. Her legacy, what she means to you, what she's meant to women's football. And I have to say, as just a pure fan, I was really heartbroken that she didn't make it to the knockout phases. I really was.
With Marta, it's really interesting for me because she was a little bit before my time of watching the sport. It's like when some people missed out on Pelé or they missed out on Maradona, of course. I missed out on Marta. I didn't get
Mm.
to see much of her. Everything I've seen has been through YouTube in videos I have seen, but I've tried to do as much research as possible. I know she played a lot in the NWSL, a league that I don't watch at all. I haven't watched a single NWSL match since, like, I don't know, Tobin Heath played with the Portland Thorns or something like that. It's just too much to keep up with. It's Arsenal women
I'm going to take you
alone
to an
are,
Angel City game or a
yeah,
San
we should
Diego
go.
Wave game. We'll go together.
Absolutely. And I have friends that have invited me. I just haven't been able to go. That would be lovely to see. So Marta is a pioneer, a trailblazer, a very intelligent woman, somebody that's very selfless and open and vulnerable. And to see the greatest be so candid and so open about and emotional and about the growth of the game. Like, I don't remember Johan Cruyff necessarily doing that, or I don't remember, Maradona certainly not doing any of that. I vividly remember him not doing any of that.
You've seen the Maradona documentary, right?
Yeah,
I was just in
I,
Napoli.
I haven't seen it, and he's not my favorite person in the world due to his off the field situation. But I just love that that's what she does. And you look at the how many players revere her and the quality of the players that revere her and the tributes pouring in of her and support and reposting of stories. And she's like untouchable, and rightly so. And I wish that I would have seen her more. Unfortunately, it sort of like overlapped her peak at when I started watching the game. But even when I first started, you hear of Marta and you're like, oh, that's the best. She's the best. And it's just lovely to have watched her the couple of matches or 3 matches that I saw with Brazil. And imagine having her and the other stars that have retired or are sort of dipping in their quality or the latter years of their football.
Mm-hmm.
To have them in punditry and to have them as journalists and to have them as presenters and commentators and not Alexi Lalas and Stuart Holden. Like, imagine how much they would grow a country, a nation, a channel, a group of fans, a club. So I think she's going to be, whatever she's done so far, she can continue that in the post-playing years, and it's going to be unbelievable. And I would be very, very surprised if we don't see so much of her in the next few years.
I would hope so. Her legacy is way too important. I
Yeah.
did have a picture of, I can't believe it didn't upload. There's a picture I had uploaded of her leading, holding hands with these young girls, like the future. And just a really beautiful image that
I know it. I know. I've seen it.
yeah, that they put together. And just to give people perspective, anyone who's tuning in who is new to women's football and stuff, I mean, this is like Maradona retiring. This is retiring. This is like Maradona's last World Cup, Messi's last World Cup, Ronaldo's last World Cup. Just to give you context, if you want comparisons to the men's game, she is the legend of all legends. In Brazil, she's a hero. She's as big as Neymar. She is as popular as Neymar. She is seen as a god, and she's battled. Imagine when she started playing football.
Yeah.
And she said it in her presser to the media. You guys didn't want to show women's football when I started playing. Imagine Marta now starting out with her talent.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
she would be on the Mount Rushmore of everything. And so there's a reason I chose the background of the show today. She's one of my all-time heroes. My dream is to get her on this show. I've been plotting and planning a way to get Marta on this show, but the amount of respect that I have for her in terms of what she's done for women's football just by playing, not by. So
And by
here's
being
the
so good, being so good.
So
So
Demian,
good.
help me understand this, right? Because Marta has been definitely one of those players that has allowed her football to talk about, be spoken about on the pitch. I believe players like Mia Hamm were the same back in the day. You know, I think Pop is the same. She just plays football. You know, Patelis, she by the way, we're going to talk about Spain. You see the difference between Spain in the Euros and in the World Cup by having the best player in the world? I mean, I think people have been sleeping on them, but we'll get to that in a second. And then you have someone like Megan Rapinoe, who I've interviewed a few times. And in that 2011 rainy day, you know, in LA, where they were preparing for the London Olympics, you know, spoke to her on the sidelines before she became this mega superstar activist. There are a couple of things here with regards to the US women's national team, who I've covered. I fell in love with Abby Wambach, Heather O'Reilly, Christy Rampone, Carly Lloyd I've interviewed many times. I love Jill Ellis. What an amazing coach, mentor, and manager. And I'm going to be honest about something here. And this is coming from a gay woman. Okay? When I started covering the US women's national team, there was this character in the side. There was this camaraderie, this belief. None of them were bigger than anyone else. They were carrying the baton of those 99ers who won that World Cup at the Rose Bowl in an iconic way. And the US women's national team has always stood for many things. And as I said earlier at the top of the show, if it wasn't for them, a lot of these federations wouldn't flourish. They wouldn't be where they are today. The US women's national team future wouldn't be going in the direction it is if it wasn't for those who fought. But there are polarizing figures too, like Hope Solo, who is seen as different now because of her off-field personal issues. But let me tell you something. Behind the scenes, Hope Solo fought tooth and nail for women.
Right.
Just because she has personal problems, it doesn't change what she did for the position of goalkeeper, what she did for the team at that time when she was playing, and what she tried to do after. I've covered this team, and I'm telling you right now, from me, that I saw a culture change. I saw a shift. I saw a selfishness maybe develop that I hadn't seen before. It wasn't so much about the collective. It became more about the individuals. And I know that Carly Lloyd's being killed. I know Alexi Lalas is being killed. And I know that you may disagree or agree with them no matter which line you kind of sit on or whatever. But I'm saying from my own personal experience, I saw an evolution. And I think it's disgusting in some ways how these women are being attacked because of what they believe in, right? Now, you may disagree or agree with Megan Rapinoe. And not everyone in the team maybe aligns with everything that she says. But I do think I think they made a mistake announcing her retirement before it. It became, for me, with sponsors and marketers like the Megan Rapinoe farewell tour, it became more about her than it did about the team. And I think that's an issue. And I don't have an issue with players saying that this is their last World Cup, but it felt to me the US women's national team going into this tournament was more about marketing than football. And let's also put the onus on the coach. You're attacking the players. You're attacking how they played. I like Vlatko. He's always been so kind. He's always been so good to me in pressers. A lot of the times I'm given the last question because I kind of throw it into the mixer and ask something a little bit different from tactics and whatever. And I'm so grateful for that. But I think he failed. I think he patted Megan on the back. She should never have been in this team. She should never have I'm sorry. She should never have been in this team. She was awful in this World Cup. She's done as a player. And I have so much respect for her. Demian, what do you think?
It's very difficult talk about Megan Rapinoe and the women's national team and not get into politics, right? Because that's sort of how the narrative has been written, and the attack and the abuse that she has received for the most part has been through people that lean in the different political spectrum, right? Or they're towards the other side of the spectrum.
But she made it political, Demian. She brought it on herself.
Sure, it doesn't make it okay for X, Y, or Z person on Twitter to say the kinds of things that they are saying.
Completely agree.
I think because, and I am a liberal, leftist in American terms, woke person that respects pronouns and respects all that. That is me. I would die on that hill. It's very crazy for me to that people think that this hasn't been a thing for years upon years upon years. Mm-hmm. That gay players or people that supported the trans movement or whatever, they haven't been around. They've always been around. That's why football is so big. That's why football is so inclusive.
Yeah, social media amplified everything, right?
Exactly. What Demsek says is perfect. Women's football stands for inclusion. So this has always been amazing. And I was talking to Jamie earlier today on WhatsApp, and she mentioned something like, you know, how so many homophobic comments have come out and praised the fact that they lost and happy that
it's disgusting.
Lost. It's not only stupid in and of itself, but it's ignorant because, like, who do you think there's no gay people or people that stand for gayness on the winning side? It's not like it's the gay players against the heterosexual righties. Like, it's just so stupid. So that's the thing. For me, how I sort of boil down anything in the massive failure of the U.S. women's national team, to me, it's down to the coach.
It's been awful. Absolutely right. Awful.
You can bring Megan Rapinoe. You don't have to play her, you know? Everybody and their mom knows that Rose Lavelle had to play more often or as much as possible. And other players could have stepped in, come in. And it was pretty crazy to see how the first half against the Dutch was like a freaking the greatest thing I've ever seen of the Dutch exercising demons from the previous World Cup final and playing them off I've never seen the U.S. women be outplayed as badly as the Dutch outplayed them in the first half. And then one change, Rose Lavelle, the entire landscape of the match changes.
Yeah, a little messy.
She is unbelievable. So imagine if she played more, if she played differently, if you didn't bring on a Megan Rapinoe and you brought in somebody else. You can have Megan Rapinoe as a sort of mascot of the way that the Dutch have taken Merel van Dongen for the two seasons or 2 World Cups. Like, and she's been able to play, but they don't play her. Or other players that we know that have gone to teams and they don't play them. So, or have traveled with squads. So,
Alex Morgan, the same thing. Like, I think Megan's getting all of the heat, but Alex Morgan had no right starting. She was awful. He went, I think Vlatko went with favorites, and he went with, like, not trying to upset maybe the legends, Demian. You know,
sure.
He didn't start Trinity Rodman in, I can't remember which game it was, and she's like a superstar in the making. The coach has been getting away with it because everyone is attacking Megan because of her beliefs and what she stands for. And I find this to be really abhorrent in many ways. And at the same time, Megan and the women doing their poses and their freaking fashion shows and their pret-a-porter, you know, and their, you know, Paris Fashion Week before every game, you don't get the love after when you don't perform. I found that really, I've never seen that from a US women's national team. I found that to be really unsavory and unattractive.
I understand. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I understand your point.
I interrupt all the time. It's all right.
And of course, I respect what you're saying. I personally don't have any problem whatsoever with the players doing what they have to do or doing those things because they need to know if it works or if it doesn't. Do we buy into the hype or we don't? Do we have a moment of humility? Do we change? Do we, and you mentioned something about marketing and all this other stuff. I love support and growth of the sport, and that sometimes equates to marketing, and all these PR companies say, no, you got to do this and this commercial. Like the Megan Rapinoe commercial, that's like an 80s cartoon with a
The
electric
Nike
guitar,
one?
the Nike one.
Yeah.
I would get goosebumps every time. I love 80s nostalgia. I love the synth wave metal ish combination, the
But it's
colors.
not about I get it. I get, listen, I
And
love
I
that
know
too.
it's not about the team. It's about Megan Rapinoe. I understand. I completely understand. What I'm trying to say is that the problem is if they don't learn from this going forward. If they continue making the like, I understand the Megan Rapinoe commercial, the Sophia Smith commercial where she's like, there's a player scared of her in this whole situation. She has done nothing. Megan Rapinoe
Nothing.
has won 2 World Cups. Sophia
Alex
Smith,
Morgan, Kelly O'Hara's in there.
exactly.
Julia,
The keeper,
Lindsay Oren.
Julie Ertz, whom I love to hate.
I freaking love her, man.
She is a tank. Unbelievable.
Played her out of
player.
position.
Yes. Like how do you not? I mean, nobody really post a thread down the middle for the U.S. They could have had, so they have so many good fast players. If you would have put her in the middle against the Dutch, that would have been a whole PTSD-inducing match for a lot of those Dutch players. So to me, yes, the marketing, blah, 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 but the coach played into the hands of that, and I think he set them up to fail, unfortunately, in many ways. And, there's another thing that Jamie said to me earlier today that I thought was brilliant, that she said that, this tournament came too late for some of the legends and too early for some of the young players. I'm paraphrasing that. And I think the perfect example of that was for the U.S. And, it also didn't help that so many people bigged them up before watching a single game being played.
Why wouldn't they? They're going for a three-peat. They've won the last 2 World Cups.
Only because, for me, as trying to be as objective as possible, there's no track record of anybody doing a three-peat. So why the hell would you be so confident that you can do it? It has never been done. So maybe take a step back and be like, oh, well, England are playing really well. They just won the Euros. And we played against Ireland in St. Louis, a game that I was at, and they played like absolute garbage.
They've been garbage.
So
they've been garbage for a while. And
right.
They
so
have Demian.
You would think that the coach would learn from that and be like, wait a second, I gotta make some moves. The coach of the most important footballing nation on the planet, you would think that he would learn how to adapt. So to me, yes, the players are very responsible for not performing quite well, but I also don't think that they were set in they were put in winning situations. And to me, most of the blame is on the coach. I agree. I have no problem with any starting player's performance. An Alex Morgan, per se, maybe she's not the number 9 that she used to. Tuck her in as a number 10. She handles the ball real well. Unbelievable vision. Great passes. How are you setting her up as a number 9? You're not doing that properly. Adapt.
Because she's got the football intelligence, doesn't she, Alex? And she may not have the pace anymore, but she can ping a pass. She can do.
Not only that, but imagine the fear of any defense. It's like the Messi false 9 factor.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to be scared out of your goddamn mind, and you're going to mark them as close as possible. And then Pedro or David Villa would run through the flanks. Game over. Eto'o, Henry. Like, that happens in the women's game as well.
Here's what I don't like. I understand people's kind of comments about Megan, because she does come across as a little arrogant and selfish. And as I said, the pre-game stuff did not endear her to fans. It was kind of like, here I am again. I'm just going to lift another World Cup type of vibe. But this, what R is saying, I personally don't think the marketing, the politics, the fashion, Rapinoe, whatever played any part. It did play a part. I just thought it was very bad. I agree with your last statement. I do believe it played a part. I do believe those things play a part. They were a little bit distracted. And I think Vlatko allowed that to happen. Pia Sundhage did not. Jill Ellis did not. Those players were not. They had opportunities and they all got great sponsorships. But Vlatko was a little bit of a star.
No. I just have I'm curious to know if what it's like in other countries, right? We're so America-centric for the most part, and obviously in this conversation. I wonder, like, let's say Australia win, right? All the marketing for the World Cup, I'm sure Steph Catley's everywhere. I'm sure Sam Kerr is everywhere. I'm sure there's commercials about, you know, the most typical Australian thing. I was going to say something stupid like kangaroo food or something. Like there has to be a lot of marketing for other nations as well. And somebody's going to win and somebody's not going to win. So it's hard for me to sort of like understand.
No.
Really,
there's marketing, right? And the reason why Steph, you know, or for any of those players have an opportunity to make the marketing dollars and the sponsorship. And most women make more money off the field than they do on the field. This is a fact.
Right. Of course.
And the reason they can is because of the US women's national team. They have opened the door. They're trailblazers. You know, that's a fact. And maybe Archangel and Emmanuel can let us know. I'm sure in Australia right now they're on, you know, cereal boxes and whatever, and they should be. They're the host nation. They've got to the quarterfinals. But how do you deal with that, and how do you handle that going forward? That's the key. And so for me, when I started covering the US women's national team, seeing them win an Olympics, seeing them win 2 World Cups, there was this humbleness. There was this humility. And I do believe that all came from who was at the helm, the coach.
Correct. I agree. And if the Lauren James stamp is an event that changes her life for the better, and she learns and grows and looks at herself in the mirror, and there's some humility there. The same thing can be for this process. It's just not one incident. It's a collection. It's a macro moment. So we'll see what happens with the U.S. going forward. Am I filled with confidence that the next World Cup is going to be the U.S. or the next Olympics is going to be the U.S.? Absolutely not. But they're going to be among the 4-5 teams, not U.S. and the great unwashed, as it were, right? This is a whole different thing to me, anyway.
I understand. I get that.
And one last point, what you said strikes a chord for me, being friends with some of these footballers, is that if they stand to make a lot of money, if their federations, if Bunny Shaw is not making a single goddamn dollar from the federation,
I will fight people.
No support, and she can be in the most arrogant, obnoxious commercial, and she's making a shit ton of money. Unbelievable. Bunny Shaw, you deserve it. Run with it. Make all the money in the world.
Yeah.
Live it. You know, for the markets
it may
of
not
the world.
last.
It may not last. So I'm torn in the sort of human aspect and the professional side of it. And I completely understand your point. I respect it, and I agree basically with everything you said.
So Demian, I put this comment up for you too here from Stephen, who at No Laguna. If you guys have been living under a rock, which maybe you have because it's summertime and you need the shade, he is the designer of all of our merch. He's an epic human being. I feel this is a very good point. The US marketing was all that countries are scared of them. That was the campaign, right? So there was no respect for the growth of football and what they've experienced maybe even over the last 2 years.
And sorry to interrupt. I'm curious to know what you think.
Interrupt me. I love it.
So if marketing, PR companies, as you know, and all this nonsense, they're not the players. So the players, to a degree, even though they agree to do a commercial, they're also, their likeliness and image are used without them agreeing to a lot. So it's like, come on, like they and I'm not saying come on to you, like the US marketing that the world was afraid of them. I would bet a lot of money that Rose Lavelle, in her winning mentality, did not for a second think that any team was scared of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that Tobin Heath and Kirsten Press would have thought that, they would have believed that they're the best team in the world, but that players were scared. You think Viviana Miedema is scared to play against anybody? She's not.
No.
You know
So
what I mean?
if they had done the campaign where it was like, we've been the greatest, we've been the best, but the world is rising. Who is our next like challenge? If
Well,
they'd
but
have
you know
given a
this, that's
little
not
bit of respect, Demian.
right, but that's anti half of this nation. So it's like I don't think people would have been like, "Oh, great. That's not American mentality. We go to win and we're the best in the." That's what Alexi Lalas would have said, right? So in all the toxicity that surrounds a lot of the punditry and all of the stuff that happens in this country, like, it's a very fine line. And to me, it happened. It sucked. What do we do? If you talk about how America is the best country and how we grow and we excel under pressure and all this nonsense that is respectable, it's not really nonsense. I didn't mean to put that down, but it's like, in all that situation, then do something about it. Let's see what happens in 2 years.
There's nothing wrong with the American spirit and culture either. I feel like it's under attack right now, and
I don't feel I'm attacking. I'm not saying that you're saying that
not
I'm
you.
attacking it,
I'm saying
but
out in the people that are just the bandwagoners. They don't get the journey, man. They don't get where these women have come from. These women have sacrificed everything.
And it's also, there are other countries that have won World Cups, right? America is not the only country that has won World Cups. So I wonder what it's like for other countries. How, I think it's a cultural thing. I think it's the
one of my favorite countries to ever win a World Cup. Look at this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
know. Look at passing the baton, legend to legend here, right?
It's unbelievable. And talk about a great team. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. We
haven't even gotten
Okay,
to,
let's do it. Okay, so Demian and I have been talking for an hour. If you guys want to hang out for a little bit more, I sent him an agenda and I love it. Let's talk about so we've gone from the surprises and the beautiful stories and moments like this and this and this. I sent you a whole thing on goalkeepers because I was like, I feel like the goalkeeping has just been super elevated in the competition. I love this picture, by the way. I just love these moments. I do think that people have been sleeping on Spain. I think Sweden are lucky to even be in the quarterfinals. I know our goal scored that winning penalty kick. I love. For me, is she the player of the tournament so far?
Hell no.
Who's the player? What? Who's
Daniela
the player?
Van de Donk is the player of the tournament. Yes,
she's a badass. She just got herself kicked out of the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I would say the player.
I mean, hello, come on.
Yeah, I mean, the player
and
of the
what about
tournament.
This little?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's. I mean, Kaisel. I mean, it's very hard for me to pick a player of the tournament. When I say that I'm not an expert and I'm not a journalist, among the reasons why I say that, not only because I haven't had the training, but I'm not an objective person. Van de Donk is my favorite player, and I think she's had a stellar World Cup.
She's been good, but she let her team down.
She did, sure. She did. People make mistakes.
We're going to pick on Lauren James. We got to do the same thing to your girl,
of course.
right?
I think she should have gotten herself booked against Vietnam, but that wasn't in the cards. So it sucked, it sucked, and it was a bad tackle. But again, for me, a player that has really stood out to me is Aslani from Sweden. I think she's a diamond of a player. I've liked her for a long time. Good. But on Australia specifically, I think Ellie Carpenter has been magnificent. She's so quick and bouncy and on the ball and just covering. It's just unbelievable. I really, really rate her very, 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 very highly. I kind of lost track of what the question was, but I don't think Caitlin Ford is the player of the tournament. She's only had one goal, I think.
I was just trying to press you there for the. I was pushing. I was stoking the bear right there just to see, because I want to know from you now, everyone. Goon is in the house. Thanks to those who have joined us tonight for the Women's World Cup special. How do you think the Arsenal players have fared so far, Demian? Who stands out? Who stands out to you, and who maybe you're a little bit disappointed with?
I'm disappointed on. I'm gonna get so much hate. I'm very disappointed on Victoria Pelova. In the sense that,
hold the mayo.
Yeah.
So many people I've seen post about how much they love Pelova. You kind of were not a fan when we signed her, and we've done a couple shows.
I am not a fan. I have never been a fan. I will never be a fan. It's just some players you jive with, some players you don't. I don't think she's that good. And I think that Kirsten Kasparai is a way better player. But I have not been disappointed in Victoria Pelova. I think she's been good as I kind of expected her to be. And she tries really hard. I just don't think she's the right player for the system that we're playing at the Dutch are playing at the moment. I think Frida Maanum did not have a good tournament. I think everybody kind of knows that.
That whole team was shocking. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, though, with you know,
I mean,
that team.
That's a whole thing.
Ada coming. I mean, there's something going on there.
You know, and Jamie knows about it, and a lot of people know about this. But it's easy to say Steph Catley and all these players, but for me, a player that has really been really exciting is Noelle Maritz. You know, our right back that at some point went through a dip in form, and Laura Wienreuter started playing, and then she kind of went back. And I've written about this on my blog. Noelle has been played as a center back, and she has done fairly well, except for that last match against Spain. But like, she was fantastic. They had a really good defense. So as it bodes for Arsenal, and you know, with Ilestedt being a phenomenal defender, scoring 3 goals in this World Cup, or I think that's as many as she got. Ideally, she would partner Leah Williamson, and since Leah is not there, I would rather see Noelle back there or Jen Beattie than Wubben Moyer and any of the other options that we have. So I'm really excited about what that means for Arsenal in the future. And overall, because of our girls doing so well in the World Cup in general, I just think that it's going to grow in character. Again, I wrote about this in my blog. Like, it's going to only benefit Arsenal. The guys that are winning, or the women that are winning, the women that are losing because they want to like step it up, and now that they're well-known names all over, it's just only going to be good. And I think Arsenal are in a very, very, very good position this coming season.
Yeah, totally. And good luck to all the Arsenal women who are left in the tournament. There's no doubt. I would like, even though I don't want to mention his name, but one of the greatest front pages of any newspaper I've ever seen in my life was the Daily Mirror, when you know who was the editor, and it was Emmanuel Petit and Patrick Vieira when they won the World Cup with France, and the front cover was Arsenal win the World Cup. Right. And I think it was Petit on his knees and Vieira standing. I can't remember which one. And I'm kind of hoping for the same. So let's see. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Before we go real quick, we're going to do 2 things. You wrote something about this player and how you think England are better without Walsh. The sky was falling when Walsh got injured. Unbelievable that she even played in the last game, Demian. Why do you think this was England's worst game? I mean, they started off slow. They had that mega game prior to the knockout phase game, where Lauren James completely shined and everything. She's one of the best players in the world record transfer player. Why do you think the Lionesses play better without her?
It's not that I think that they play better. I think I like more. I like the match that I saw.
Oh, he's frozen in time again. Just as he was about to tell us. He's frozen in time.
The matches that I've seen with her on the team. Am I frozen? I can.
You froze for a second. Go back to the top.
Hello?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Go back to the top. So what I was saying is, it's not that I think that England play better. It's that from the game I saw without her, I think it was a more entertaining game, with a caveat that they beat the team with a large scoreline, or by a large scoreline. But the reason why I enjoy it more is because I love seeing how teams adapt when star players are missing. That is something that I love as a football fan overall. Keira Walsh is the best player in her position on planet Earth. Of course, she makes any team better. What I was saying is that seeing how they adapt and seeing how Sarina Wiegman played a 3-5-2 and changed the formation, changed the roles of some of the players, because it meant that Rachel Daly's back on the squad and she benched Carter, which was obviously the right thing to do. I love Zellum and her bite and her strength. So to see her in the middle with Georgia Stanway was great to watch as a football fan and in a neutral to a degree, even though obviously I have a soft spot for England as a whole. So it's not that I think they're better. Keira Walsh is the best player in the world, basically. But I just love the idea of teams adapting. And then what I thought was very difficult against Nigeria was that they went back to what it used to be with Keira Walsh. So I think players having gone from one system to the other to another system might be a little, have been. It's been interesting to watch. So no, as a disclaimer, I don't think that Keira Walsh, England played better without Keira Walsh. I liked what they did when she's not there, on that one match that I saw. So
okay.
Basically, I'm covering my ass. But, yes. Yeah.
Well covered. Well
Yeah.
covered.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Let's get to the big stuff here. Who's going to win it all? I mean, let me say the Spain-Netherlands quarterfinal, it's the tastiest. Is it? I think they're all tasty in their own way. Let me say something. England have quite the job on their hands against Colombia, don't you think?
Yes, but I think with Rachel Daly and Lucy Bronze, I'll pick England.
I think Lucy Bronze has been really good in this tournament.
She has. And that she excels when she's pressed against fast players. That's what she does. And Colombians have among the fastest players on the wings. And they have that steal in the middle. Like that's what they were saying also, Susie and company on that podcast. And I think it's going to be a tough match, but I think England are going to play better than they did against Nigeria, because Colombia are more sort of offense-minded, and I think they can deal with that. The Georgia Stanways of the world can foul a couple of people here and there. Obviously, Keira Walsh can lead that. And
where would you play Daly?
That's a really, really good question. I would say that I would keep Daly left back, how it's been working, or for the Euros in here. And I would give Beth England a shot down the middle.
Okay, so I know she's a Spurs player, but can I just say, I know Holly spoke about it when we were on Albert's channel and show and stuff, and she took her penalty brilliantly. She definitely can be. I think she deserves her shot.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree, and I believe that this is the game where Sarina Wiegman is going to be like, okay, come up top. I think Rachel Daly has proven that she's stellar as a left back for when she plays with the Lionesses. That's just things that happen, Frida Rolfo plays at a different position for Sweden than she does for Barcelona from time to time, and it just that's what I think anyway. So I think I think England. My heart wants the Dutch to win. My brain thinks that England are going to win, but we all know that Australia is going to win. That's what I'll say.
I would listen, is it possible England and Australia can meet at this point, right?
No, I think they meet in the
semis.
Yeah.
I got to say, man, I would love to see the host nation win. This is where my Greek part comes out, maybe more than the English part.
I think that I would say that it's between those two. the Australian spirit, how Alana Kennedy's playing, how
The
Steph
crowd.
Catley's playing, the crowd, Caitlin Ford. There's just this magic. Ellie Carpenter, all the Rasso, I think it's her name. I
Goalkeeper's
mean,
been
the
great,
goalkeeper's
right?
been great. I mean, and to the point of goalkeeping, really quickly,
Yeah.
the number one factor for me is height. It's as obvious as that is. We're seeing more often taller goalkeepers, better performances. That's just the how it equates. And Bonmati, Aitana Bonmati is such an unbelievable player that I would be very surprised if she doesn't win player of the tournament, as a matter of fact.
I think what's exciting about this is that there's going to be a new champion. And that's beautiful for the game.
Yeah.
And I love that. All right, we're going to get you out. 5 more minutes left. Thanks to everyone who's joined, myself and Demian here. I've got some questions for you, Demian, before we leave. Quick fire stuff. Okay, Archangel asked, does anyone else think that the last Swedish penalty didn't clear the line? I have to say, it was like you remember Liverpool Man City? The season where Liverpool lost the title on a millimeter, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It's not with all due respect to Archangel, it's not an opinion. There's a camera, there's the ball, there's a line. It shows you if it's in or out. It's not an opinion-based thing. It's denying facts if you think it didn't clear the line. It cleared the line.
Science.
It was a goal. So
R wants to know, curious, why don't you like Palova?
That's a good question. I would preface it by saying that I'm sure she's a wonderful person and I love her and I will support any Arsenal player and any Dutch footballer.
She's your Xhaka.
She's kind of like Xhaka. I think where my beef with her started was a few years ago, how everybody was talking about the heir apparent to DVD, and I don't think she can tie her shoelaces. I think she loses the ball a lot. I think she runs quickly in weird directions and makes really bad decisions. Or not that she makes bad decisions. When I'm watching and I say, pass it over here, or do this, or come in, or blah, 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 like I talk to the TV, she never does the things that I would want her to do.
Okay.
I think she's very naive and doesn't have the bite and the actual strength that we need for an Arsenal player like Katie McCabe, like Caitlin Ford, like Beth Mead. I think she's missing a lot of that.
Okay,
and
fair enough.
I can write a novel or a spreadsheet. You let me know and I'll send it to you.
Okay, so let's go to Stephen here. Who has impressed you most overall in this World Cup?
Team or player, but let me
both.
think.
Give us both.
Who has impressed me the most?
For me, it's Colombia. They have an edge.
Yeah, I mean, Colombia, I agree. What Colombia is doing, I definitely did not see it coming.
No, I didn't
also
either.
Japan, but I don't know a lot. But I have to say that Australia is the one that has impressed me the most. Are we back? We're back.
Yeah, you're back.
Are you
You're
back?
back.
Are we back?
Yeah, Australia.
Okay.
Australia's impressed you the most.
Australia has impressed me the most because I was interested to see what they did without Sam Kerr for all those matches.
I mean, they got to the knockout stages without her. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Imagine her coming back and, so, and as far as player, I really like Denise O'Sullivan in Ireland. I thought she was so good, and she's kind of like a Mana Iwabuchi type, little all over the pitch. And I would have to say that I think Alex Greenwood has solidified why I think she should be an Arsenal player, because I think
she's been great. And I tell you something else.
Stellar.
Do you remember on Albert's show, you and I would talk? I mentioned it that England's passing or bringing the ball out the back has been really poor without Leah Williamson, and Millie Bright literally had the game of her life after that.
She did,
and has been brilliant since.
She has.
So
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys go all the way. Like, honestly, I would not be surprised at all.
I tell you something. From a personal point of view, as a girl who was born in London, North London, right? For England to win the World Cup in this generation before the men and to double down and do it again, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I would
I
love
would
that.
bloody freaking love it.
Yeah.
Demsec wants to know, why do you think the Lionesses aren't performing well and scraping through? Are they scrape? They scraped through against Nigeria. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I don't agree. It's not that I don't agree with the question. It's a question. The question is telling me what I'm supposed to think, right? I do not think that they're not performing well. I think England are performing great. They had a game where they did what they had to do. It was a tough opposition, but I didn't think they weren't performing well. Not performing well means not winning. That's a whole different conversation. So no, I think that England are playing really well, and I would bet money that they would win the whole thing.
Would love it. By the way, I agree with you. If there is one US women's national team player that can come out of this with her head held high, it is Naomi. Absolutely well said. Of course, Gigi praying and wishing Spain versus Australia in the final. People have been sleeping on Spain. I don't know how, but I'm telling you.
Because of the 4-0 against Japan. Everybody's like, oh, that's done. And people in the past, Spain has done that in the World Cup. So,
of course, Newman shows up with a stupid question. But there you go. I have to put it up. Of course he likes Gary.
Yes, of course.
Guna Works will end on this. If you could make a squad out of all the currently injured players, where do you think they would place?
They would semis. I mean,
definitely knockouts.
Talking about Viviana Miedema, Beth Mead, Leah Williamson, and that's only Arsenal players.
Yeah. Kirby. What about Kirby?
Frank Kirby, Macario, I think.
Macario. Yeah.
I mean,
also remember Brazil are going through a major transition. They're
as well, yeah.
It's a generational switch, isn't it? In Brazil,
yeah.
I think Brazil in the next World Cup are going to be absolutely on. They've got 3 superstar players in the making.
Yeah,
they've got a legend who's exiting. They're a little bit like the US women's national team. There's a turn going on from handing the baton over, maybe including players that shouldn't have been there, to kind of where they go next. So yeah. All right. So that's all we've got.
All right.
1 hour and 22 pure minutes. No added time. By the way, everyone losing their marbles about this added time from the Community Shield and stuff. This is what we've been wanting. We've been saying time wasters. No more time wasters, people. Thankfully, FIFA got it right, and the World Cup from Qatar to Australia has set the tone for the time wasters of Newcastle United, that they won't be able to do that in the Premier League this coming season. So, Demian, quarterfinals. Who's going through to the semis? Give us your teams.
My teams are the Netherlands are going to play Japan, and the Netherlands are going to go to the World Cup final. And Australia will beat France on penalties, and England will convincingly beat Colombia 3-0. That's what I got.
I've got Spain. I actually think I'm very scared about Spain. I think Van der Donk missing in that game is massive for the Netherlands. I think she's had a really good tournament, and I know
I'm in denial. I'm in denial.
You are in denial. Sweden have no business being in this quarterfinal, but they're one of those teams that have found themselves there. How they got through against that if US women's national team could finish their chances, just like Super Kev says on the show, Soph, if you don't take your chances, you don't win games.
Right.
If they'd have just taken their chances, they would have won that 4-0 that game, maybe 4-1. Sure. But they didn't.
If my mom had wheels, I would have. If my mom was a bike, I would have training wheels, as they say.
I'm going with Spain, Japan, Australia, and the Lionesses. So we will be back, of course, before the semifinals. We'll be back before the final to talk about all of that with you. Demian, what do you want the squaddies to know before we leave?
What I would love for you all to know is that Sophie Nicolaou has always and will always be a pioneer of the game, and that you are all so very lucky to have her as a host of this channel, as if you didn't know that. But on the footballing side, do not sleep on Jill Roord, former Arsenal player. She has done things that she wasn't supposed to do on the pitch, and she's been all over, bossed that midfield against the U.S., and I think that this is going to be her match against Spain. We need her really badly.
I love it. Everyone's enjoyed the show. Super Rich. Are you still in Thailand, Super Rich? Let us know.
Ooh, nice.
He is. He's the best. I love Demian, and I can't do
thank
these
you.
shows without him. He is my wing man.
Thank you.
There's no doubt about it. Demsek, yes, thank you so much. I've loved it. Absolutely brilliant. We're going to be back next week. Or wait, the games start tomorrow?
The game is tomorrow
night,
and I have a gig here in LA, and I won't be able to watch the match, believe it or not. So it's going to be very...
Spain is tomorrow. Japan, Sweden is Friday. Australia, France is Saturday. And England is Saturday as well. So
Yes.
Demian and I will be back after the quarters,
Yes.
looking ahead to the semis.
For
and
us,
stuff.
it's going to be brutal for us, Sophie. 6 p.m. tomorrow, which is fine. But
I've been
later,
dying.
Friday at midnight at 12:30, and then the following day, midnight and 3:30 kickoff. And by the way, just to finish on this tip on my end, everybody that's complaining about waking up early, this is what Sophie and I do every goddamn weekend. Every single weekend. Both days. Sometimes
women
Saturdays,
and men.
Women and men. And we also wake up at 4 in the morning to watch Man City play whomever. Like, so all your crocodile tears about, oh, I gotta wake up. We do this every goddamn weekend. So leave us alone.
Totally. Well said. Leave us alone. I was watching, I had one eye open, one eye closed in the US women's penalty shootout. Same with the lionesses. Thank God France kind of buried that game early, because I'm like, I could go to bed now.
Same. I feel you. Yeah.
But
it's going to be amazing. We're so lucky. This is the best World Cup.
We are.
So
we are. Happy. Brilliant stuff, Demian. Thank you. Let everyone know where they can find you and what you're doing. And are you not doing your YouTube thing anymore?
I decided to shelve my YouTube channel. Too much work. The production level is not where I want it to be or need it to be or can afford it to be. I need to put it away, and I'm doing my blog every single day, thatarsenalwomenblog.com. I write every single day about anything related to Arsenal women, now the World Cup. And I also am continuing my podcast. So the podcast will remain. My videos on YouTube no longer. However, during the season, I'm going to try to do on the whistle type of thing for the women's games on my YouTube channel. So you can subscribe to That Arsenal Women podcast, I think is the show, the thing. I don't even know. I think it's That Arsenal Women podcast. So you can find it. You can find the channel. And again, thatarsenalwomenblog.com, and at Demian Arriaga for all the socials and all the music stuff that I'm doing.
I love it. And just know that even when I can't present a women's show this coming season, Demian will be your host here on Highbury Squad.
I can't
wait. Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in. Emmanuel, love that you've been here. He loves you, Demian.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Literally,
thank you. I appreciate
he writes
you.
me all the time. He's like, I'm not listening to that garbage transfer show. When are you and Demian on? That's literally what he writes and says to me.
Wow. Well, thank you. And everybody needs to know that he is actually my father, whom I pay to say all.
What about Newman? Who's Newman? Is he your son?
Newman's my mom.
Look at this.
Newman is my mother. Yeah. Newman is my mother.
Oh, man. Thanks to Demsek, Newman, Rich, Emmanuel, Mark, R, Goonerworks, Tammy, Demsek.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so
all
much.
of you in the house, PW, R, Carol, Mark, everybody, every single one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. It means the world to me. And maybe one day, someday, we'll have 500 people in live chat for our women's shows as well. Until next time. At ease. Squaddies, at ease. Let's hit that button. Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.